During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Joe Bednar. How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So thank you for coming on today.
I appreciate the invite.
Thank you. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what was your journey to becoming the editor for Business West?
My dream from a really early age was to be a journalist, and I have the written proof of that. Our sixth grade had a little mimeographed yearbook at the end of the year. We all had our career goals in there, and my goal, I think, in that was to be a sports writer. And then 2 years later, our eighth grade class created a yearbook to kind of a class prophecy, and in that I was going to be a journalist for the New York Times. So and I was young then. I was a young kid throughout school because I started kindergarten a year early, and I skipped second grade. So I graduated high school at 16. I graduated college at 20, and I had all these goals of becoming a writer from an early age. There was a term that the actress Lauren Graham used in a book that she wrote about her life, because she started school young as well, and she called it her lucky penny, having those extra years. And I felt like I had two lucky pennies coming out of college at 20, and I felt like I just kind of squandered them because I didn't immediately go get a newspaper job or go into journalism like I wanted to, because by that time after college I thought I was going to write the great American novel. I was going to be, or just be a famous magazine writer, writing stories for all the major publications. And so I tried to freelance. I did that for a few years, and it really kind of went nowhere. And by age 24, 25, I actually was doing some freelance work at the Waterbury Republican American, a newspaper in Connecticut. Stayed there for about 5 or 6 years. Moved to Massachusetts, got married, took a job at the Westfield Evening News, did that for a year, and then early in 2001. The publisher of Business West, John Gormley, saw my work. They were starting a new healthcare magazine. They needed another writer. He called me, and I've been there, except for a couple of quick detours, I've been there for about 23 years now. So it was an interesting path, because early on I felt like I wanted to be a journalist, but then I thought I was going to be just as a novelist or a feature writer, and I guess just didn't have the fortitude or the discipline to do that. But newspapers and magazines have been a really satisfying career for me. So it's been great.
So going from being like a news reporter to going and editing for Business West doing journalism for them, like, what are like the two main differences from being a news reporter to being like an editor?
At Business West for the last 23 years, it's really been a lot of both anyway. I was already editing just about everything that went into the magazine. My editor, George O'Brien, all those years, we both edited everything. And so I was assigning, and I was writing a lot, and I was editing a lot, and I was proofreading a lot. So none of that was different than what I'm doing now. Now I've got a lot of the more of the leadership role, where I'm really kind of setting the direction for each issue. I'm the final answer on what goes into the issues. So and there's just other leadership elements to the job, just kind of being the public face of the magazine. But the actual work, I was already doing a lot of the editing, already doing a lot of the writing, so that has not changed at all. It's just been it's a different shift in some ways, but I've been doing a lot of the editing all along anyway.
So being the final, like the face, and you get the final say of how you guys edit it. So what's your thought process behind the way that you're editing your articles?
Well, the first thing that we need to do for each issue is we have an editorial calendar, and we do have some features that are just general features that we decide on each issue. But we also have several themes in each issue, like the issue that we're working on right now. There's a construction section and a cybersecurity section, and a creative economy section, a couple others as well. So each issue, as we're planning out, we're trying to plan them out a couple issues in advance, so the whole team knows what we're working on. but it gives us a direction to say, okay, what are some of the main things happening in this area? What are some construction companies we need to talk to? What's a key cybersecurity story that we need to work on? So we're really creating that editorial calendar really helps us out to kind of gives us direction. So that's how we're building each issue, and it's not just me. As I mentioned, George, who was the editor for I think at least 30 years before he semi-retired last year. He's now a contributing writer and still very much involved in the magazine. But he's obviously involved in planning, and our sales team is obviously involved in planning. We all kind of talk together about the things that we'd like to write about. So it's a team effort. As I said, editorially, I'm leading the team, but there's other leaders in different ways in the organization, and we're all kind of pitching ideas and working together. And a lot of us have been there a long time. I think we have a small staff. Staff, I think it's about 9 people, and about 6 of us have been there about 20 years or more. In George's case, over 30. So I'm working with some really good people to sort of plan everything out. It's not just a one-man operation.
So when you're finding topics to write about, like what are some key things that you're looking for in a business?
Every business is different and every story is different, and we're looking. Sometimes we're looking for what's a new company that's coming up. What's an intriguing new face. Sometimes a company will have changed hands. Like there'll be a new bank president or a new college president. We'll want to jump in there and do a profile on them and see how their vision is different from what's come before and how they're going to move the organization forward. In some cases, just like what's a key topic in this field, like if it's an auto sales section, it's like, hey, let's do something on electric cars. What are dealers talking about in that realm? So every story is different. Every section is different when it comes to what we're looking for, and it's not so much what we're looking for, but what we find. That's what's so great about talking to people is you're learning something new every day, and you're going to hear things that you didn't expect to hear. You don't ever go into an interview thinking you know the story that's going to be told. So it's really what we're not only just what we're looking for the stories, but what we find as we talk to folks.
As the leader of your team, what are some characteristics that you're looking for in your teammates?
Oh, it's a good question, and I think it's a question you can ask of anybody. But for us, I've been working with these people for so long that it's not really a matter of what I'm looking for, because as I said, our associate publisher Kate, she's been with the magazine for 24 years. We have another sales colleague, Kathleen Plant. She's been there for I don't want to guess this, but probably at least 15, maybe 20 years. One of our marketing folks, Melissa Halleck, has been there for almost 20 years. Our graphic designer, Mike Nasudi's been there over 20 years, and George has been there forever as well. So it's not a kind of company where like folks are coming in and out all the time, and these are people. It's a pretty stable organization. These are people that have been there a long time. They're great to work with. I love my team. It's one of the great things about my job. We are right now, and then when this podcast lands, that might be settled. But we're looking for a writer right now. So yeah, I'm going to be looking for somebody who, can do a lot, and knows how to write, knows how to interview, can multitask, because it really is a busy job. It's if you're working for Business West, which is a small office that we do a lot, you're going to be doing a lot. And so when we're looking for anybody new, it's somebody who can really handle a lot of responsibility, because that's what we're going to ask for. Because it's a team that really knows what we're doing, and we know what's expected of whoever comes in.
So you've been working with your team for a while now. So when you're able to work with them for so long, how are you guys able to build your chemistry consistently to make sure that the environment stays positive?
We've always had good chemistry, and I don't think people stay that long if there isn't. When you have, as I said, there's 9 of us, I think, and about 6 of us have been there for a very long time, and the others have been there for several years too. I think if you don't have that chemistry, you're not going to have people staying as long. I think there's a reason people stay with a company as long as they do, and it really is a great place to work. And I just think there's a lot of autonomy there. when you're given responsibilities, you're expected to do your job, and there's a lot of trust between each other, and that's where the chemistry comes from. It's a team that trusts each other. We know we're good at what we do, whatever our role might be, and we get along. Not in every situation every day. I mean, we're humans, but I'm very grateful for the people I work with. I think the chemistry has been developed over a long time, and it's just great to come in and work with people that you can talk openly with and honestly with, and have that autonomy and just expect everyone to do their job, and we get along and we do it.
So you said sometimes you guys might not agree. It's like, how are you guys able to like go and like figure out like the conflict of maybe you like the way that you guys wrote something, but somebody else on your team doesn't agree with it. So how are you guys able to figure out ways to come to terms with each other?
We just talk it out. I mean, there's going to be differences of opinion on a lot of things, whether it's the stories you write or what we're not covering, or the way an event is being planned. We have 4 major events throughout the year. We have our difference makers, our 40 under 40, our women of impact, and our healthcare heroes, and those are pretty significant undertakings as well for our events and marketing team, sales team, the editorial team, because we're writing the stories that are honoring the people at these events. So there's just so many things going on that I think it's just important to just have that openness, that we know that we can talk honestly with each other. The one thing that's nice about Business West is there's not a lot of feeling you need to like sort of I'm trying to find the right words to shield your feelings on something, or to just be less than candid.
Mm-hmm.
We know each other. We know each other very well. We trust each other, so we can talk openly with each other. We can talk, we can raise our voices with each other. So depending on what the situation is, one of the great things I think about this team is that we're just really able to talk openly all the time. And that's great, because I don't think every business has that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think every department in every business has that. I mean, everyone's going to have their conflicts, whatever kind of business you're in. But just to be able to kind of talk openly about things, and I don't want to even dwell on it too long to act like there's a lot of conflict, because there's not. But but when there is disagreements, we can talk about it. We can talk openly, and people know that they're being heard.
Mm-hmm. So, as a leader, what are some important characteristics that you need to have?
This is a good question. I'm gonna think about it for a second as I take a drink of water. This gets back to the fact that I'm not myself a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I am, the editor of the magazine, so I'm a leader on the magazine, but there are other leaders on our magazine as well. But what I have done over the years is I've been able to talk to a lot of CEOs, people that actually run the company and are leaders in many ways. And George, who I've mentioned a couple times already, has a saying that he told me early on when I worked at Business West, and he's used it a lot over the years because he really believes in it. He says he really admires the people that sign the front of the check.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, most people in the work world are signing the back of the check, or they used to be before direct deposit. But but he likes, he really admires the people that sign the front of the check. They're the people that have taken the risks to start companies,
Mm-hmm.
like the entrepreneurs, the people that are just have a lot of responsibility, not just for their own economic well-being, but for a lot of other people and their families. So it's been great over the years to be able to talk to those people and tell their stories. And everybody's got a different leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got a different way they do it. Everybody has different challenges they faced. But just being able to talk to different business leaders over the years, and as I said, I think I've written in my journalism career, and counting newspapers and onto Business West, and this is I'm not making this up. It's about 6,000 stories, and that's tens of thousands of interviews. So I've been able to really listen to a lot of CEOs and business leaders, and just everyone does it differently. And I'm hoping that in the leadership role I have today, which is for the editorial content of Business West, that I'm leading in a way that my team trusts me, that they know that I'm going to think in the best interests of our magazine, that I am talking to a wide range of people in a wide range of fields to give a real broad honest, and an interesting view of this Western Mass economy, because that's what we do. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary. We've been the business voice of this region for 40 years, which is such an honor, and I'm grateful for it. But with that comes, my main responsibility, which is to really document the economy of this region and tell the stories of our business leaders to the best of my ability, and that's I guess my main leadership role with Business West, and I try to do it every day.
So earlier I asked you how are you able to avoid conflict, or when there is conflicts, and come to a middle ground. And you said is because you guys are able to communicate.
Yeah.
So why is being able to communicate effectively important?
I just don't think anybody is served by people not being honest. If people in or an organization are going to disagree sometimes, and I'm not even talking about us, I'm talking about any business. And if you're not able to just lay it out on the table and speak honestly, then that's when you start getting people talking behind backs and mistrust. And that's maybe it's easier in a small organization like ours, less than 10 people, to avoid that. But I just think that's so damaging, because if you don't have that open communication where people not only feel like they're being heard, but feel like they can say what they want to say without fear of retribution, or I just think the alternative is the backbiting and the mistrust and the shutting down, and that just doesn't serve anybody. So that's something that I'm grateful that I think that we've been really good at over the years, and I think part of it comes from having folks that have been there for so long. And just knowing it's such a cliche to say we're a family, but everyone says that. But when you've been working together for that many years, it's just you really get that. And so I'm grateful that we've been able to sort of create that culture of communication. And I don't think a business is well served not having that.
So you said it's like a family, because how you guys are always working, and you guys worked a long time together. So if somebody might come in, might have a bad day and are down a little bit, what are some ways that you guys are able to build each other up to make sure that you guys don't finish the day a little bit down?
Yeah, it's I think the biggest threat of a down day on our job is just a really stressful day of just having way too much to do. And I've had those days, and George has had those days, and our sales team have had those days, and our marketing events person, Melissa, has had those days, and our graphics team has had those days, where there's just so much to do, and there's deadlines. We can't miss our deadlines. We're putting out a magazine every 2 weeks, and we're running events constantly. And as soon as one event's over, we're on to the next one and planning it. And so there are days when there's just way too much to do, and yeah, I've had moments of just encouraging teammates. I've had moments where teammates in my office encouraging me and saying, "Hey, we're going to get it done. It's going to get done. If we have to work a little later or take a little work home, or just kind of figure out a different way to do this, we're going to get this done, because it's always gotten done. We've never missed an event, and we've never missed an issue." That's what I try to tell people who are having a really stressful time, because and publishing is a fast-moving world, and we're putting out as much content as we are. And it's not just the print. We're putting stuff online. We're doing daily news every day. We're doing so much. But I always come back to that. It's we've never missed our mark, and we're not going to. We just kind of take a deep breath, and we'll tackle the pile tomorrow. And I've been encouraged by my teammates to that, and I've encouraged them. That's really what it's all about. It's we've always got it done. We're good, and we'll get there.
So what is some advice that you would give to your 18-year-old self today?
That's an excellent question. Because as I said, when I was a kid, I just figured newspapers and magazines, and then I had that moment, and I graduated college at 20. So when I was 18, I was in the middle of college, and by that time I was already thinking, I'm going to be a novelist. I'm going to write, as I said, I'm going to write big time feature articles for magazines. I'm going to write the great American novel. So I think what I would say looking back is that things will change. Your priorities will change, and you kind of just have to go through it to kind of see what you love. There was I would say about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I started thinking, and I started really sort of putting it into these words that I was telling people stories. So maybe I wouldn't, maybe I wouldn't write the great American novel. Maybe I'd tell that story. But every single day, I'm able to tell stories. We've told the story of your dad and what he's doing, and I'm sure we're going to continue to do that, and we might continue to tell your story as we go. But that is so gratifying because I'll occasionally save it. I don't look for thank you emails. I don't get a lot of them, but I've saved a few over the years, and on a bad day, on a stressful day, I'll read them again. When people tell me exactly what it meant to them to see Open Up Business West and to see their story told, and to say that I really got it. And I told it in the way that they would have told, and they couldn't believe that it was articulated in the way that they would have wanted to tell it. And it means so much. It means so much for a business owner to have that validation. Not that they need it. Nobody needs Business West, to justify or validate what they do. But just when they see it and they say, you know what, that really meant a lot to me. That's in print, and you told my story. I just started to. I started to put it into those words. I think on my Facebook page for a while, on my description of what I do, it's I tell other people's stories, and I've always done it. I've done it for over a quarter century now, but I really started to appreciate it maybe 6-7 years ago. That wow, I get to tell other people's stories. That is a big deal to them. That's I don't know if life's changing, but it affects people's lives, and so I think I would tell myself at 18, it's like it might take you a while to understand why you're doing what you're doing, but you'll get there, and you kind of have to live it to get to that point and say, yeah, this is really meaningful to me.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you're what is your thought process when you're telling someone's story? Because I seem like you really like to enjoy that.
I do, the job is stressful, and it's not great every day. There's days where it's just I need a vacation. I'm just doing too much of this. And when you're trying to write 2 stories in a day to get to meet your deadline, it's not always fun. But the really good days are the ones where you get out of an interview and you say, oh my God, we got to make that the cover. That's a great interview. I did not expect. I'm so inspired by that. So you're writing a lot of things. Not everything I write is like, oh, I'm just enjoying this so much. I'm so inspired by the story. Sometimes it's just like I got to get this thing written by 2:00. We got to make the issue. But there's times when you're writing certain stories where it's like, wow, this is really. I love the story they told. I love how this is flowing. I love the story that we started out the article with, and how it leads into what their initial dreams were, and how they built this business, and how they've grown this business, and it just clicks. So I don't know if that answers the question or not. I think I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but yeah, there's certain times you're writing a story, and that really kind of comes to the forefront, and you really do enjoy it. And you send it in. It's like, hey, George, take a look at this. This was a lot of fun to write.
So, what makes the difference from you saying, yes, I really enjoy this story versus I gotta just get this one out? So, what is the difference?
How far behind I am. What day of the week it is, and that's something I've always dealt with. And honestly, the time management has always been a challenge for me since I was a little kid. I struggled. As I said, I was a precocious kid. I was smart from an early age, and then the world caught up. And then I went to college and then just found that I couldn't coast anymore. And I actually ended my sophomore year of college in like a 1.9 GPA. I was on academic probation, and I figured it out the rest of the way. And I graduated. I kind of nailed the last couple of years, but it was a matter of not being able to sort of pace myself and do the work I needed to do. And just kind of, and in my career, it's the same thing. You can't do a job like this and just coast. You can't you can't waste a day. And there's weeks where you do, and then you're kind of really backed up. So that's the difference. It's basically how far behind, how far ahead I can plan successfully and really keep ahead. Because it's when you get behind, and I think if there's any sort of application for anybody listening to this or any people in any business, I think it's true of any business. Where you have certain. We have each issue. I have to write these 5 stories, and I got to edit these 7 or 8 stories, and I got to do this and this and this to get this issue out. And if you fall behind with it, you're really going to struggle leading up to the production day. Because as I said, we've never missed a publication. We've sent thousands of issues out on time over the years. We never missed one. But sometimes to get there, it's a real fire drill, and maybe because I just got behind, or and that's so that's I guess that's the constant struggle of my life. But it's something I've learned to deal with, and I've gotten better with it. And there's some weeks where I'm not, but the weeks where I can really get ahead and stay ahead and really not waste any time, are the days when you can really take your time with a story and really enjoy it, because I should be enjoying this, and I do, but you don't enjoy it as much if you just got yourself into that hole.
So you said time management is a difference from you enjoying the story versus I gotta get
Oh
this
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So like, what are some ways that you're able to manage your time better so you can have more? Yes, I get to do this today.
It's planning. It's planning. It's not sometimes we're so busy putting out an issue that we kind of we'll hit the next one next week. But I think the key is when you're working on an issue to always be planning ahead to the next one. And as I said, and as the editor, I've had to really do a better job of that, because I'm, for 22 years, I was a senior writer at the magazine, and George was the editor. And he was the one that had to deal with the time crunch. And if I was behind, it was just affecting him, because it's but now I'm affecting everybody. So that's as the editor, I'm, what I do, and the way I stay ahead and the way I plan and the way I communicate, that affects everyone. On my team, it affects graphics, it affects sales, it affects marketing, it affects everything. So I think over the last year or so since I've become editor, I've just had to become better at it. And I'm not saying I succeed every week, but it's something that if I don't do well, if I don't plan ahead, if I don't stay ahead, that's not going to be a great production week for anybody. So I've gotten better with it in the sense that I've had to.
So can you tell me a little bit from the difference between being the senior writer versus being the editor?
Yeah, a lot of it is just we have a lot of internal communications that I have to. I'm trying to, there's more in common between the two jobs than there's different, but there's a lot of communicating, with the team. It's a lot of coordinating with marketing on messages, getting out emails and press releases to the world. It's just being the face of the company at events. You've got or major happenings in the community. You want to be there as the editor, and it's a lot of the planning. I mean, when I wasn't the editor, I would I'd work with George on what I was writing in that issue. We'd work together on it, but he was the final say, and I'd find out from him what I was finally going to be writing. And now I'm planning what I'm writing. I'm planning what he's writing. I'm planning what any contributors are writing. I'm communicating with all the outside contributors. If we have a law section, those tend to be submitted stories. I'm communicating with the law firms and gathering articles from them. So it's a lot of the planning. It's a lot of the internal and external communication, and it's a lot of the general leadership from an editorial sense. But a lot of it is the same. I'm still writing about as many stories as I was writing per issue all those years. I'm still editing everything, because I was always doing that anyway. George and I both edit everything. I'm still putting up the daily news every morning, sorting through our press releases, deciding what to run, editing those, putting those up. So a lot of the day-to-day is really the same, with a kind of an extra layer on top of that.
So you said that sometimes you guys might have to stay late or bring work home. So how are you able to balance work and being able to spend your time with your family outside of work?
Yeah, I've always wanted to not do too much of that. I've always wanted to do this job in a way that I don't have to do that. And there's days when you just got to bring something home, and it's unavoidable. But if I'm honest with myself, if I'm doing my job correctly, and if I'm planning ahead and I'm staying ahead and I'm just keeping communicating with everybody and just doing what I need to do every day, there shouldn't be too much of that. So there might be something I'm writing on a weekend night just to get done, or just on an evening. But for the most part, I'm trying not to do that, and I think all of us are trying not to do that. And as I said, it's a 9-person team that puts out a lot of content and a lot of events and a lot of things. I think we're all in the same situation. If we just kind of do what we need to do during the day, we can avoid that and have a life, because I think it's so important. I think it's important to use your vacation time, take time off to be with your family, because it's not. We should be working to live, not living to work. And so I think we all kind of strive for that in different ways. But I just think it's really important to have that balance, and I do try to separate the two.
So throughout the years, what were some ways that you're able to find a way to be able to balance work and family?
I think it's just what I said already.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just staying ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you get behind on a job like this, you're going to wind up pushing things into the weekend. You just don't want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really it's. And, you know, if I'm just kind of repeating myself, it's just because that really is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not wasting days. It's staying ahead. It's planning ahead, and that way every week is not hitting you with a barrage of things that you're so stressed out, and then you do wind up taking it into the weekend, and nobody wants to do that. So I think for the most part, that's really what it is all about. It's just staying ahead. It's time management, and yeah.
So for my final question, I'm going to ask you, what is one fun fact that nobody really knows about you?
All right, so maybe not nobody knows about me because a lot of people, some people know this, but not a lot of the people out there who know me just professionally. So I am a compulsive lister. So I make lists of. I've got a list of my 200 favorite albums and my 100 favorite songs, and I update these things constantly. I've done TV shows and toys and games and pop culture things. I did a top 50 rides in Orlando after I hit all the parks once, and just kind of and I'll put them up on Facebook, and I'll make little fun essays for them. So people know that about me. But what I remember at the beginning, I said I was going to write the great American novel.
Yes.
And tell my story. I actually eventually did, and I did it in blog form. And it took me about 10 years of starting and stopping to do it. And what I did, and I just finished it last fall. So I took my 200 favorite music albums, and I tied to each one of them a little story from my life. So it took kind of a connection from that music to a little story of my life. Mm-hmm. And I have a blog with 200 essays, and it kind of tells my life story out of order, with this album countdown, and the stories that go with it. So it's really, and it's about as long as about a 700-page novel. It's mm-hmm. And as I said, it took me about a decade to finish. But I did, I didn't write the great American novel, but I did write a novel-length story of my life, and it's online, and I tied it to my list obsession. So that's a crazy thing that I'm actually kind of proud of.
So where can we find this list of your 200?
Oh, it's on Blogger. The address is 200notes.blogspot.com. But yeah, so I did it for me. It's not something I really did to grab a huge audience with it, but it's something I wanted to exist mm-hmm. because I don't have the most exciting life. To maybe I have a very satisfying life. I don't know if I have a kind of life that people want to read about, but I just wanted to do it for me. I wanted it to exist. Something that's out there. So yeah, I'm actually really proud of it.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast today. I appreciate you being able to take your time out of your day to allow me to interview you. So thank you.
Yeah, and if I could add one other thing for you, mm-hmm. it's something. And I listened to a couple of your cast with other business leaders in the community, and I was just really impressed by the stories they had to tell as well. And I think on one or two occasions you asked them to kind of tell you, give you some advice as a CEO. And, mm-hmm. and I'm not a CEO, so I'm not getting asked that question. But if I was asked that, I think what I would say is that you never know what your last thing is going to be. It's like looking back years from now, you might be really surprised at what your last thing is mm-hmm. compared to what your first thing is, and there might be a whole lot of things in between. And you're just starting out on that journey, and I'm excited for you to kind of see where your CEO journey takes you, and hopefully something that we're going to be writing about at some point as well.
Thank you.
I really appreciate being able to come on here and talk to you about all these cool things and about a magazine that I'm really proud of, Business West. So thanks very much.
Thank you. So I appreciate you for giving me that advice, even though I didn't ask you that question, because that is advice that I actually do need to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the Real Estate CEO podcast. See you guys in the next one later.